This video is a quick response to a comment that Robert McQuade had made on my video. Robert is a really smart guy. We've exchanged comments in the past. So I replied to his comment, to answer it, but I believe that it's worth doing a video for him. He's a thinker and I like the way he operates and I like what he's trying to do here. So for starters, you all already know that back in 2014 and early 2015, I was looking only in Yellowstone, okay? And obviously Madison Junction was one of my places where warm water salt. So we have Madison Junction here, and that was my warm water salt. Now, at the time, of course, I didn't do no poem analysis at the time. In fact, I wasn't even a poem purist. I was all over the place, kind of like a lot of the new searchers are, where they're jumping to a map before they realize that the poem has to be solved before you can go to a map. Forrest Fenn had said that where warm water salt and somewhere north of Santa Fe in the Rocky Mountains is not enough information to locate where warm water salt, meaning that you can't look at a map to locate the starting place. You have to use all of the ingredients of the rest of the poem to do it. So eventually, after talking to Sean Dodson, who was a poem purist, and communicating on various forums, I decided to study the poem more. And I'm not going to get into, because you already know that I got huge videos on doing grammar analysis. But one of the good things now that benefited me is I really understand how the poem works, all right? Grammatically, forget about my solve, forget about signing the lines. When I say grammatically, I'm going to tell you, for example, what are we beginning? It is something that you already know. So in the poem, the only thing that comes or precedes it would be the entire first stanza, okay? So you can call it your quest, but what is your quest? Your quest is to do what Forrest Fenn did in stanza 1. So I know that. So in stanza 2, I also know that the independent clause in that stanza is begin it. That's the end right there. That's the end of the main clause in that entire first sentence of stanza 2. And it's an imperative. It's a command. He's telling you're the subject. You can't see that noun there, but it's implied. So he's telling you to begin it. So that can't be debated. Now, the conjunction in there that's joining halt and take, and nobody is going to be able to argue with me about this because it's easily proven by talking to anybody that really knows how to read properly and understands the grammar. But and is joining the verbs halt and take, all right? And this is important. So what are the subjects for halt and take? Well, whenever you have compound verbs like that joined by a coordinating conjunction, the subject becomes the same for both of them. Just like in the poem where you have the conditional where he says, if you have been wise and found the blaze. So we have two verbs there, have been, and then we have found. You notice that there's no subject before found, but that's because the conjunction in there, if you have been wise and found, is joining the verbs have been and found. Okay. So it's the same thing in stanza 2. There's no comma after the word halt. So that means that halt and take are both sharing the subject, which is warm waters. So in other words, at where warm waters halt, okay, where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk, is that entire thing is what's known as a where clause. Okay, it's an adverbial clause modifying the word begin to tell you where to begin. Where do I begin? Well, you begin at where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down. So the waters are what's taking it in the canyon down. But that's a fact. So let me apply that as I now know as a fact. I'm not searching in Yellowstone for reasons that I've stated over and over. But let's say that I had to search in Yellowstone, okay? And let's say that Madison Junction is where warm water salt. That was mine in the past, but I've proven that it can't be. And I don't want to get into that here. But anyway, let's just assume, let's run with it. Where Madison Junction is where warm water salt. Okay. So that would mean also that Madison Junction has to be the home of Brown. Let's begin with that. So the first sentence, okay, let's look at what it's telling you there. Okay, begin it where warm water salt, take it in the canyon down. Not far, but too far to walk. So you're saying that we're agreeing here that if we were looking here, that the Gibbon River, which comes from the Norris Geyser Basin, and the Fire Hole, which comes from the geyser basin below, are the warm waters. They halt. They don't exist anymore after this point. They become the Madison River. So that would mean that the Madison River is what's forming where warm waters halt. And the Madison River is taking the warm waters into the canyon down. So right there, he's not telling you to go that way. That's why I would rule out 9 Mile Hole. But if I still was forced to make a solve here, where would I go? Well, he's telling me that we're going to go upstream. So I have two choices. I can go up the Gibbon, or I can go up the Fire Hole. And he's telling me that there's going to be heavy loads and water high. Well, if you go up the Gibbon, you're going to hit two waterfalls. That can be considered water high. Also, into the Fire Hole Canyon, okay, you're going to hit a waterfall over here, which is also water high. And then there's heavy loads. You can also say that water high are the geysers. In fact, Old Faithful, one of the primary geysers in the park, could be waters high. Now, remember, we're trying to keep it simple here, right? But we're also working with the poem. We're making sure that the poem fits with the logic, right? So to me, when he says, when you're putting in down here, it is no place for the meek, when he's referring back to your warm waters halt area, right? So to me, no place for the meek is the entire Madison River. The way I look at it is if you're a general tourist, all right, you're not going to know anything about fishing. You don't care about fishing. The only reason why you're in Yellowstone National Park is to see the sights, see the Grand Canyon, to see Old Faithful. You know, that's what you're there for. You're not going to have any knowledge necessarily about fishing. So I agree with you that this could be no place for the meek if this was your place for warm waters halt. To me, that would apply that you don't go this way at all. Home tells you that the warm waters are going to take it in the canyon. The mouth of the Madison Canyon is over here, and he's not telling you to go in the canyon. So you're going to avoid 9 Mile Hole completely. That's really all I want to say. I don't want to make it that long, but the Gibbon Falls, by the way, right up here, right? And then, like I said, the Fire Hole River has a falls too, right? And it's over here. And that's the way I would go if I were looking in Yellowstone today. And this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about that I would like to see happen on YouTube. I would like to see people, one, go through and do a grammar analysis, right? Because the chase is over, right? Let's get serious now. We're not running around as if this is a race. We shouldn't be looking at maps. We're never going to find a location out. It's never going to be proven because the Department of Interior manages all of the national parks, all of the BLM land, all of the Indian land, all of that stuff falls under the Department of Interior. And they've already indicated they don't want the place known. So unless Jack's testimony from the Zoom call and the testimony is from Forrest Fenn from the Zoom call is released and it's not redacted, okay, after it's released, unless that happens, or an official from the Department of Interior comes out and says that it's a 9 Mile Hole, we're never going to know. And I don't think that day's ever going to happen. So why not work on the poem? And anyway, I thought that you deserved this, but yeah, you're right. No place for the meek. But the difference is because the poem is telling you not to go in the canyon, I don't think we go anywhere near this area. I don't think they're fording it here, but I don't think that he intended you to do that. He didn't tell you that you needed to bring anything more than a sandwich and a flashlight. He didn't say anything about waiters. And by the way, the book that you mentioned, no, I don't have that book, but I am aware of that book because the first thing I did when I was in Yellowstone is I found the history. Like, for example, his fishing bridge was the primary place back in Forrest's day that they would go trout fishing. That was the primary place. In fact, there so many people fished at that bridge that they eventually banned fishing on that bridge. There were so many people, their lines were getting tangled and so on and so forth, and they stopped it, right? And also that's where Forrest Fenn camped in the park. Before he did West Yellowstone, they stayed at Fishing Bridge. So you can argue the same. If you want to use the thrill of the chase, since if it referred to this place, it also refers to where they stayed, where they camped. I don't understand why people aren't considering stuff like this, right? That's all I'm asking for is go through the poem grammatically, okay? and then side by side, show the decisions that you make from beginning all the way to the end that leads you to a precise spot. That's all I'm asking for. That's the kind of stuff that we should be doing. We're never going to know location. The only thing we have is the poem, and we know that it was in Wyoming. So that greatly simplifies it, right? But we don't know where it was in Wyoming. So we could still try to solve the poem according to Jack. It's still possible to prove a solution with just the poem. Knowing the location is not closure. I want to know the solve. That's what I want to know. Like I could say, Jack, he is the finder. I think he's proven that. Through the courts, he's proven that. We can also prove that it was in the state of Wyoming through the courts. But what we can't prove is that Jack actually solved the poem. And we can't prove that until Jack releases his solution. And then we can look at his solution and see how it makes sense in the poem. If that day never comes, and I don't think it ever will, because I don't believe Jack solved it on his own. He used somebody else to solve. And then he simply beat them to the punch, because especially if grammar is involved, like he said it was, because he was a writer. He's going to know more about grammar than many of the searchers. So there's a high chance that he solved the ending before whoever the real solver is. And then he just simply beat them to the spot. So anyway, that's all I want to say. I want to keep it really short. Thanks again. Peace.